What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Engage 8 pod. This is episode 15. We are recording on Wednesday, October 11th. So it's really early in the week. I'm your host, Zach, with my two co hosts, Josh and Mike. Today, we're going to be going over some Monday Night Football recap, some college football, and then previewing week 6. You want to get us started with some Monday Night Football, Josh?
Yes, I can. Monday Night Football. The Packers went into Vegas and lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. Jordan Love stunk, to be honest with you. 182 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks. We're going to talk about the Raiders a little bit farther down when we get into our preview for week 6. But the Raiders defense was really able to turn over the Packers and Jordan Love, and that was really the story of the game. For a while, it looked like the Packers were just going to come in and have the second half surge and win this game. But the turnovers just really caught up to them, and credit the Raiders defense for that. They made some great plays out there.
I'm going to be honest. I felt like the Packers were really missing Aaron Jones in this game. They were missing a nice, faster receiving back out of the backfield. Aaron Jones, or not Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon was playing okay and as a pure runner, but he couldn't get it done in the receiving game, and they needed a guy like that. And he's also Jordan Love's most reliable weapon, even though he's got Christian Watson and that really good receiving core. But they didn't show up for him today or on Monday. But on the Raiders side, they honestly got lucky because the Packers just played that bad and they barely snuck out with a win. It felt like the Packers defense played out of their minds, holding Devontae Adams to like what, 3 or 4 total catches? Only 4 catches for 45 yards. So, and they also held Josh Jacobs to under 4 yards a carry too. And he had a couple really big carries that kind of inflated that to me.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, they were able to start to get him involved a little bit. He did have a touchdown. It was nice to see a little bit of Michael Mayer. We hadn't seen much of him this year. The Raiders they've been struggling to get the ball to Devontae Adams, and they need to. Jacoby Myers had another great game. Jimmy G's looked all right so far through 4 games starting. He's 2-2. My favorite play of the game was when Preston Smith lined up against Devontae Adams. I don't know if you guys saw that, but very fun to see the best receiver, one of the best receivers in football, go up against a basically defensive lineman. But the Packers offense, they just didn't look that good. Jordan Love turned the ball over, a couple bad interceptions, and the Raiders just did what they had to do at home.
Yeah, I know Zach was excited for to see the results of this game. Jordan Love going over 3. As much as I hate the Packers, I just cannot get myself to hate Jordan Love. Like there's something about him where I just like, maybe it's because Rodgers was so hateable and it was so easy to not like Aaron Rodgers. It's just, and he was good, but yeah, I can't find a way to hate Jordan Love, and I do feel bad for him. I mean, 3 picks, he looked horrible last night, especially coming off of week 1. You go and you dominate the Bears, you feel good, you get a good division win on the road, and then it's kind of not been smooth sailing since. I mean, you think about they have 2 wins right now. They're sitting at 2-3. They beat the Bears week 1. If they didn't have that miraculous comeback against the Saints in the fourth quarter, they're sitting at 1-4 right now with the Bears and the Vikings at the bottom of the North. So I think there's a lot to be concerned about for the Packers. But Raiders, like I said, I think this was a good win for them. Playing a team that's probably around the same level as them, maybe a little better. We don't really know yet. It's still pretty early, but yeah, I think it was a big win for the Raiders, and I like what I saw on defense from them.
Going back to Jordan Love, coming into the season, we really had no idea what he was. He had 1 career start under his belt, and this was his first offseason with complete control of the offense, getting first team reps and all that. Week 1, he came out and it looked like he played really well because he had time in the pocket. He was facing an absolutely miserable pass rush. As the season's gone on, you get some tape on the guy, see what he can and can't do, and then you get a game like this where against a subpar defense, arguably a bottom 5 secondary in the entire league, he puts up a straight stinker. I don't hate him, and it has nothing to do with the fact that Rodgers was so hateable, like you said, Josh. It's just he's a Packer, and there's a lot of talk on Twitter from fans of both sides. I did my best to remain neutral and be like, we don't know what he is. We got to give him time, but right now he's given nobody anything to just show that he's been special.
You have said in the preview that you didn't think he was special, but it is still early for him. He's only in like his 6th start. You still got to give him time to develop a little bit, get some connection with these young receivers. It's only his 2nd game with Christian Watson, and Christian Watson had a nice play, but I would agree that he hasn't shown anything special, but he still needs time to develop with these guys. And on the Raiders side of the ball, they did what they had to do to win the game. And the tackle by Marcus Peters, the horse collar tackle. That was almost a game-winning tackle. It stopped him. It forced him into a field goal instead of a touchdown, which it would have been a touchdown if he didn't do the horse collar tackle. And the field goal instead of the touchdown basically won him the game. So Marcus Peters, game-saving tackle.
Veteran move.
Veteran move, yeah.
That's
I
all
was
I got.
seeing,
Oh, continue.
I was seeing people complain on Twitter like they should have given the Packers the touchdown, and I'm like, if you can't score in 4 plays from the 4 yard line, you don't deserve the touchdown. That's just bad.
People on Twitter begging for rule changes.
It's every single week, but I mean, I just thought it was
Yeah.
funny that Packers fans were asking for more help from the refs. But
Yeah, now the Packers got a bye this week too, so maybe
Them
a
and the
good time
Steelers.
for them and the Steelers. Yep. So we will be talking about the Raiders later when we talk about their game. But you want to move on to a little college football here, Mike?
Okay, so a couple big college football games this week. We'll start with maybe the worst one, Kentucky, Georgia. In terms of the big games, Kentucky, a lot of hype going into this game. Undefeated. Georgia struggled last week against Auburn. Georgia wasn't even close, 51-13. A lot of people thought Georgia maybe wasn't as good as advertised, but they really proved it wrong. Brock Bowers, another great game, 7 catches for 132 yards. Carson Beck, Georgia's quarterback, had a great, maybe his best college game with 389 yards, 4 touchdowns against Kentucky. And Kentucky's explosive run game, which has looked dominant all year, especially last week, just wasn't there. They only had 55 yards on the ground. And this was surprisingly Georgia's first point spread cover of the season. So big win for Georgia, finally able to assert some dominance.
Yeah, tough for Kentucky in this one, but it's always tough to go into Athens and play the number 1 team, back-to-back defending champs. I think this says actually more about Florida than anybody else. We lose to Georgia by, what was the final total? 38, and we beat Florida 33-14. So what does that say about Florida? That's all I'm saying. No, but in all seriousness, this team is very streaky, and you can't be streaky against the number 1 team in the country that's going for a 3-peat.
Yeah, Devin Leary didn't have a great game, only 120 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He hasn't really had a great game yet.
Yeah, but just not a great game. Expected
got
more.
Ray Davis, though.
Yeah. Next game, Notre Dame, Louisville. Notre Dame, you thought you would see something better going into next week. I think they have USC and Louisville. Really surprising. Jeff Brom has this team rolling. Purdue's coach last year. They're now 6-0. They look great. They dominated Notre Dame. They won 33-20. Sam Hartman, we were talking about how early in the season had a chance to maybe go after a Heisman run. I think it's safe to say that dream's dead. 3 interceptions against Louisville, and Notre Dame's offense just didn't look good. They had previously won 30 straight games against the ACC in the regular season. Louisville snapped that. Very disappointing if you're a Notre Dame fan.
You're really gonna make me start this with a Kentucky loss and a Louisville win, huh? That's devious, but yeah, Louisville looked great. Jeff Brom and Plummer just being what they have to be, man. What a big win for them. And Notre Dame, just what could have been this season. Maybe if you don't have 10 guys on the field for the last 2 plays of the Ohio State game, then maybe you're not so far looking ahead to USC and you lose this game. And now you're a two-loss team going into USC. It's probably over for the playoff chances for Notre Dame. Maybe if they run the table and a bunch of other teams start losing games, but doesn't look good. And they were looking like a playoff team with a Heisman candidate a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Jawar Jordan, Louisville's running back, had an incredible game, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. Big game for him. And then Audric Estime, Notre Dame's running back, just couldn't get anything going, 10 carries for 20 yards. Just couldn't get the job done. And now on to USC. USC versus Arizona. It was a great game. I think it went to triple overtime. USC's defense just continues to struggle. They were down, I think, 17-0 to start the game. Caleb Williams and the offense was able to scratch back into it. And Caleb Williams, he didn't have his best game, but he was able to have 4 total touchdowns, 219 passing yards, 40 rushing yards. He had a big rushing touchdown, I think, in the second overtime. And then in the first overtime, they were 1st and 20 from the 30, I think, and they were able to get in the end zone. Big game for USC. They needed this one to keep their playoff hopes alive, even though they are undefeated, but they would have to run the table if they were to lose. But but big game for them. Arizona's quarterback Noah Fifita was incredible, 303 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, but that could just be going against a rough USC defense.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It was a long college football Saturday. My eyelids were getting a little tired as we approached overtime in this game. So I did fall asleep before overtime started. But from what I did see, a lot of the same. Caleb Williams is fantastic, and the USC defense is horrible. And that seems to be a theme with Lincoln Riley. Great quarterback, horrible defense. Should be fun to watch them against Notre Dame, though. Even though Notre Dame kind of blew the chances of this being a blockbuster game, it still should be fun.
Yeah, and we'll get to Oklahoma a little bit later, but Lincoln Riley's ability to just never have a good defense is kind of almost impressive at this point. Always having these top teams that just
Does it cancel out if you always have the Heisman winner though?
Yeah, I guess it must. But on to the next game. Really, we wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't for one play. But Georgia Tech, Miami, Miami. Tyler Van Dyke, their quarterback, he had a rough game, 3 interceptions, but the defense was able to keep them in the game. And then 5 minutes left, they were able to run the clock from 5 minutes left all the way to about 30 seconds left. Georgia Tech had no timeouts. Miami had the ball. All they had to do was knee the ball, and they could go to the locker room. Instead, Mario Cristobal decides to run the football, and Miami's running back, Don Chaney Jr., fumbled it, which was then recovered by Georgia Tech with just about 30 seconds left, maybe a little bit under. And they had no timeouts. All you had to do was keep them out of field goal range from like their own 30-yard line. And they give up 2 big plays, and Georgia Tech scores a 44-yard touchdown with, I think, 2 seconds left in the game. Just one of the worst collapses I've ever seen in a college football game.
It's almost like Madden-esque, like you're playing your boy and you don't want to be the dude who takes an ease at the end of the game, so you're just running it, and then you manage to fumble. Just absolutely wild stuff, especially for your first loss of the season too. Could have just continued the undefeated streak, won the game. You won the game. And then was there ever like a reasoning? Did we get a crystal ball answer for that?
I think he just said in the postgame that they should have needed the ball.
That's wild. I mean, I don't have much to say about that except for it's just crazy, man.
Yeah. One of the worst claps, I think, in college football history, when you can just need the ball to win the game.
Maybe one of the biggest collapses in football history. If the game meant more, like imagine if that was like a playoff game.
Oh my, that would have not been good. Next game, Alabama, Texas A&M. Alabama was able to hang on 26-20. As we kind of expected, Jalen Milroe seems to be the guy stepping away from the other quarterbacks. He looked great, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then surprisingly, Alabama has just been unable to have a rushing attack. They finished with negative 13 rushing yards in the first half and then 23 rushing yards total, which was the 3rd worst in the Saban era at Bama. It's just very surprising to see an Alabama team, which is always really known for running the football and being great at it, struggle to run the football.
Yeah, and it's kind of been since the beginning of the season. We knew going in that Alabama, who always has this great O-line, was not going to have that O-line this year, and it's showing. But at the end of the day, I think this is more on Jimbo Fisher. I mean, let's get it going, man. We got to get some big wins. We have to deliver on these recruiting classes we're getting. At what point is it just like you get all the recruits? It's hard to fire a coach that gets the top recruits every year. But at the same time, if you can't produce wins, that's what you're there to do. And that's what the boosters are paying their money for NIL to get these recruits to do, is to win football games. And they're one booster meeting away, I feel like, from Jimbo being out of there. But we'll see.
Yeah, and we talked about it early in the season, just about this exact same thing, that they keep getting these top recruits and they've just yet to be able to deliver.
Common theme.
And it's a common theme. They need to find out quick. He's still yet to find that big win at Texas A&M, and this game was at Texas A&M, so this was a big chance for Jimbo Fisher to really get it going. On to another SEC game, LSU versus Missouri, another great game. Jaden Daniels. Every week you'll see a video on Twitter seeing him just get absolutely lit up. It's kind of impressive how he hasn't entered concussion protocol yet, but he was able to finish with 134 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. But the LSU defense, which also is normally one of the staples in college football, is just struggled. They've allowed 94 points in the last 2 games, 1,233 yards in the past 2 games. Just something you don't expect from one of the best teams in the SEC. And then Missouri on the other side, Brady Cook, he looked great, 411 yards, and Missouri looked like they were going to win this game for most of the game. But again, LSU was able to come back late and survive.
Yeah, the Jaden Daniels thing is what I was talking about on Twitter. It's like I've watched every LSU game, and every time there's just like 5 to 10 plays a game where he just gets rocked and ends up being okay. It's wild. And shout out LSU for the backdoor cover on that pick 6 late. That was huge for a large number of people. But yeah, shout out LSU, man. This is a big win. One they had to win. One they had to get to not fall to 3-3.
Yeah, big win. Keep their maybe New Year's Six Bowl dreams alive. And then on to our last game, maybe the game of the, I think probably the game of the week, maybe game of the year. Oklahoma versus Texas, the Red River rivalry. 7 lead changes, 3 ties. Atmosphere was incredible. Last year, Texas won the game 49-0. Dillon Gabriel wasn't healthy to play the game. This year, Dillon Gabriel, minute 17 remaining, goes on a 75-yard game-winning drive. Really fun game. And this Oklahoma defense, which from the Lincoln Riley age, the Oklahoma defense was nothing. And Brent Venables in his second season, this Oklahoma defense is very impressive and is looking like a force to be reckoned with. I mentioned Dillon Gabriel. He threw for 285 yards, ran for 113, played his heart out. It was fun to watch. And Quinn Ewers, he struggled early in the game, threw a pick on 2 of his first 6 passes, but he completed 19 straight and finished the game all right. And it's a fun rivalry and usually always delivers.
Yeah, you covered basically everything I wanted to say there. Dillon Gabriel was fantastic. Ewers struggled early, but ended up getting it together. This looked at one point like it could have gotten out of hand for Texas, but they go and they make it a game late. And what a big win for Oklahoma. I don't have Texas's schedule in front of me. I'm going to try to pull it up here on the fly, but I guess just typing in Texas isn't going to get me far. But Texas football, let's see who they got on their schedule here. Because this game can end up being important if they don't have another big game here. Yeah, at Houston versus BYU versus K-State, at TCU, at Iowa State versus Texas Tech. Yeah, I don't know if you have a big quality win there at the end. You have the Bama win, of course, and you beat Kansas. But this game could end up hurting them depending on where Oklahoma's sitting towards the end of the year. But I would love to see Texas in the playoff. I think that would be super fun.
I agree. That would be really fun. Are they in the same conference as Texas, Oklahoma?
Big 12 isn't split, is it?
It's not split? Okay.
Don't
so then that
so.
could be a rematch right there in the Big 12 championship that could decide the college football playoff, which would be very interesting to see. This rivalry just always delivers. It's a fun rivalry.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see how this plays out. I'm just excited for when we get to I'm not rooting for the end of the season, but the college football playoffs is going to be fun this year. When we're a couple weeks away from the playoff rankings coming out, which I'm definitely excited for. I'm just trying to pull this up here. I don't believe that Big 12 football is split. I'm pretty sure it's just one. But yeah, I would love to see a rematch.
That'd be a fun game, especially that'd be at AT&T Stadium.
Ooh, Jerry World.
Sure the Big 12 is there. Yeah,
believe so.
Are we ready for some Week 6 football?
Yeah, man, I'm ready to get into it. Let's pull up these notes here. All right. First game tomorrow night, Broncos at Chiefs. Chiefs are going for their 16th straight win against the Broncos, which is just crazy to say out loud. Kelsey, though, is a game time decision. I'm not sure. You don't want to ever overlook a team in the NFL, but if you're the Chiefs at home on a short week against one of the worst teams in the league, one of the worst defenses in the league, I don't see why you would play Kelsey. You can get the mini bye after this game, and even without Kelsey, I think Casey should win this game fairly easily still. Denver's struggling on both ends. Like I said, one of the worst defenses. And I like KC by a lot in this game. I think KC's going to come out a little bit. I don't want to say they're going to come out mad because they did win last week, but they didn't play their best ball last week in Minnesota. I think they look significantly better this week at home.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And going off that Travis Kelce point, him, George Karlaftis, and Tommy Townsend are all questionable for that game. So definitely something to look at. I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference because if Mahomes is healthy, Chiefs are usually going to be favored in most games. Broncos, they're not that great of a team. They didn't look too great last week, especially against an offense that has been struggling most of the time this season with the New York Jets. But their defense just will not be able to contain Mahomes, especially if they're not healthy, and especially with all these Pat Surtain trade rumors. So who knows what's going on behind the scenes?
Bring him to Detroit.
Let's pump the brakes on that. I don't want to face him twice a year, but yeah, I got Kansas City in this one. I don't know by exactly how much. It probably depends if Kelce plays. If Kelce plays, probably by 20 plus. If not, it's probably 10 plus. But it's he's not that big of a difference maker in terms of the winner of the game for me.
Yeah, it's been 8 years since the Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs. Ironically, it was on a Thursday night football, but Peyton Manning was still the Broncos quarterback at that time. And the Broncos have never beaten Patrick Mahomes. And last week, we didn't mention on the last pod, but he was able to beat his 31st NFL team. So Mahomes has beaten every team in the NFL except for the Chiefs. So very impressive for him being so young. The Broncos, you guys both mentioned it with the Surtain trade rumors, they could be approaching selling sooner rather than later. In 2 of the last 3 weeks, they've lost to their former 2 coaches, and Vic Fangio and Nathaniel Hackett. So this Bronco team is obviously struggling. Russell Wilson has looked better, which is maybe their one bright sign. But now they have to go against the reigning Super Bowl champions, and Patrick Mahomes gets a chance to go against the worst statistical defense in the NFL right now. So I don't see how this game was going to be that close.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about this game in particular else. I just wanted to talk about Sean Payton. How much blame are we giving him for this? I think that's a fair question.
I definitely think it's a fair question. I don't know how much blame I'd put on. I feel like most of the blame is kind of his fault because of how he talked about this team before the season, blaming Nathaniel Hackett for everything. But this team hasn't looked great, especially the defense. So I really don't know how much blame you can put on him. It's hard to say.
He definitely talked a little too much for being a head coach in a new place, especially 1 year being out of the game like he was. And Denver's in such a rough spot now. It feels like they have to move on from a lot of their younger pieces. They've got some interesting ones. They've got Surtain, they've got Simmons, Sutton, and Judy as their receiving duo. And I don't think anyone's going to try and move a couple firsts for Russ anymore. But they're kind of in the hole. They're out of a decent amount of first round picks, but they got some pieces they could move. And outside of that, they're in a really rough spot. And like you said, Mike, it's hard to blame Sean Payton for a lot of it because he was brought in after a lot of that aftermath. But he didn't help himself by opening his mouth about Hackett or anything.
But maybe he was just a Drew Brees merchant. You never know.
Could have been. That's still up for debate, though. I do not think even if the Broncos go 1-16 this year that they even think about firing Sean Payton. I don't think there's
not at all
any chance of that happening.
If they didn't trade a pick for him, I think maybe. But you traded a pick for him, you're definitely going to give him.
I almost forgot about that. I forgot they traded a pick for him.
But I mean, they'll probably give him a chance to draft his QB if they finish like bottom 3 in the league, if I had to guess.
Yeah. It'd be crazy if they ended up stumbling. Do they have their own first this year?
They don't have any. Ooh.
Who has that first?
No.
Oh. Is it Dolphins, maybe? Oh, my God.
No, it can't be Dolphins.
No, it can't be the Dolphins. They would have the Dolphins, if anything.
Yeah, let's see. Let's give it a look.
Right, because the Dolphins, they got Chubb from them.
Be 2024, right?
I think so.
Let's see.
Yeah, they traded their 2023 first for Sean Payton. I think.
They have the Dolphins. Or no, never mind. Jesus.
I think they have their own and maybe a Dolphins.
Oh wow! I'm just realized I looked up Dolphins first round pick. All right, we're on it now. Broncos. Yeah, they have
They
their
do
own
have
pick.
their own
They
pick.
have their own pick.
Okay. I see in
They
like
don't
all
have
the
a
mock
second.
drafts that they're in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but that's all I got really about this game.
yeah, same.
All right, cool. Moving on. London game number 3, Ravens at Titans. The Ravens are coming off a game that they know they shouldn't have lost against the Steelers team that's just really playing really poor on offense. They had to score more than 10 points that game, and they failed to do that. Ravens defense has been playing really well despite losing a lot of guys early on both ends, but their defense has been playing really, really well. And they, for the most part, shut down the Steelers last week, except for a couple times where the Lamar fumbled and put him in a bad position. But even then, they were holding him to field goals on the short yardage situations. And we know how I feel about the Titans offense. I hate the Titans offense. If the Ravens can score early, this game's going to be over quickly.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, they had trouble scoring last week, but it really wasn't because of Lamar. It was because of the weapons around them. They're talented, but they kind of just literally and figuratively dropped the ball. They had a lot of key drops, a couple touchdowns, a couple key first downs. I think they'll work all those kinks out, and both teams are going to London rather than last week where the Jags were in there for a week. So level playing field on that end. Unless one of those teams comes in on Tuesday and one of them comes in on Friday, it's probably not going to be that big of a difference. So for me, I don't have too much to say about this one. Like you said, Josh, if the Ravens can go up early and keep the Titans' best player, Derrick Henry, out of the game, we've said it a million times. Take him out of the game, you probably win. So if the Ravens do that, which I think they can, especially with from what I'm seeing, Jeffrey Simmons is on the injury report this week. So Titans' best defensive player is might not play, and having to travel overseas and sit on a flight and keep your legs in that compact space for that long, it can't be good. So for me, I don't have much else to say. I got the Ravens in this one.
Yeah, both teams have been very inconsistent so far, but Lamar has been pretty consistent. He had a rough last maybe 6 minutes of the Steelers game, but other than that, he's been very solid, and the Ravens defense has been very solid. So the Titans offense, we've seen them struggle so far this year a lot, especially when they're not able to get Derrick Henry involved. And I think that this game might be one-sided with the Ravens. Lamar was sacked 4 times last week. The Titans D-line is not as good as the Steelers, so I don't think that will be as much of a problem. But the Ravens receiving core, we saw it last week with the drops. They just have to get rid of them. They can't keep doing that. The Ravens defense is 3rd in team defense right now, and they're only giving up 15 points per game. I don't see Tennessee's offense really being able to do much against this Ravens defense.
Yeah, you said it. I think the Lamar not being under pressure all game compared to how he's going to be when he plays the Steelers, and that's just how it is. That's more of a testament to the Steelers than anything. But he won't feel that at all this week in London. Like you said, Zach, equal playing field. I think if the Titans can score the ball like they did against Cincinnati, they can stay in the game. I don't see that happening against a much better defense in Baltimore. I got the Ravens in London.
Yeah, I got the Ravens too. Like you guys both said, they're not going to be able to score enough points to really keep up with Lamar. They'll, like I said before, they're probably going to work out the kinks in terms of the drops. So I got Baltimore.
Yep, I said it. Ravens defense has only given up 15 points per game, and the Titans offense is 26th in points per game. I think the Ravens defense might dominate this game. I got the Ravens.
All right. Moving on to Commanders at Falcons. Before last week, I think I would have said that Ritter's going to struggle against this Washington defense, but the Washington defense got trounced last week by Fields and the Bears, and Ritter was pretty good in his game against the Texans. So I kind of feel the complete opposite of what I thought I was going to feel. Ritter and the Falcons, like we joked about before on here, Ritter's amazing at home, unbeatable at home, some would say. And he gets to play home against the Commanders this week. I could see the Commanders offense struggling as well. I'm really high on the Falcons defense. I have been this whole season. I still am. And I could see this being a problem for the Commanders and a game that the Falcons can prove themselves once again, playing against these mid to higher mid level teams, I guess. I don't know. Texans, Commanders. There's a big gray area right now, I feel like, in the middle.
This is going to be such an underrated game at the 1:00 slate. Two, like, really, like you said, Josh, higher mid-tier teams who both have something to prove. And the quarterbacks are both question marks because Ritter, he's phenomenal at home, which he's playing at home. And Sam Howell, he's shown some flashes of some really good play. But I think Washington, their front four, they didn't do too much against the Bears last week, and their O-line has been inconsistent this year, but they are starting to get a little bit healthier, but we'll get to them later. Washington, they just got to be able to get to Ritter and make him make some tough decisions and speed up his internal clock. If they can do that, especially at home, they may be able to give him his first loss.
Yeah. I talked about it last week, how good Ritter is at home. And the Falcons have a top 10 defense against the Commanders offense, which has been all right, but it's struggled at times with turnovers. And the Falcons run the ball very well. So the Falcons have the recipe to win with a good defense and running the ball, win the game in the trenches. They have to get the ball to their weapons just like they did last week. They got Kyle Pitts involved. They got Drake London involved. They got Bijan involved, and their offense looked great, and they won. I think if they do that again this week, I think they will win this game. Sam Howell, he's been very inconsistent, a couple turnovers, but he has shown really good flashes that he could be the guy in Washington. I think this game will be very good, but the Commanders' defense is going to have to step it up if they want a chance against these good Falcons weapons.
Yeah, like you said, Howell has turned it over a fair share, and he's playing against Jesse Bates, who currently is tied with Jerry Jacobs for the most picks in the NFL right now. But I think that's going to be a problem for them. I think the Falcons are going to turn them over early, and their offense is going to be able to do enough. Chase Young, I want to touch on. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think maybe it was since he got back, he has the highest PFF rating, or one of the highest PFF ratings among edges. I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's been great. He's been getting to the quarterback. I'd love to see that from him. A lot of people were talking down on his name and have been for well over a year now, and now he's starting to shut him up. And it's hard. This Washington defense has all the pieces to be great. Their secondary's the tough part, but they have all the pieces up front to be great. So you hate to see that. They're playing against a good O-line in the Falcons. I think the Falcons protect Ritter and they win this game at home. The streak lives on.
For me, this game is so hard to pick, especially with Washington. I think you can say they got embarrassed at home on national television against the Bears of all teams. So coming into this game, you got to think about the personal side of it. It's so important when you talk about football, but you have to look at Desmond Ritter being undefeated at home. Like you said, Josh, I think it lives on. I got Atlanta.
Yeah, I got Atlanta as well. I think Ritter at home is just a force to be reckoned with. I do think the Commanders are going to come out hot. They struggled last week against the Bears. They're going to have to come out hot. But I think the Falcons at home is just a tank recently. So I got the Falcons.
All right. Moving on to the next game here, Vikings at Bears. You want to start us off with this one, Zach?
Yeah, I will. Vikings are coming off a honestly really close loss against the Chiefs, and the Bears are coming off a dominating win against the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. So there is a rest factor for this game if you want to look at it like that. And both teams, they honestly surprised a little bit last week. As I mentioned before, the Vikings hung in there with the defending champs, or at least made it close at the end, and the Bears blew someone out for their first win of the year. So for the Bears, they're looking to get a few key guys back in their secondary. Kyler Gordon, a second-year nickelback, Jalen Johnson, a solid outside corner, and free safety Eddie Jackson, who are all looking to return and play. And I think they're second or third games apiece this season. And Minnesota, they unfortunately lost Justin Jefferson to the IR with a hamstring injury, so he's going to be missing the next 4 games. Justin Jefferson, we haven't seen the Vikings without him since he broke out against the Titans a few years ago. So seeing them without him, we haven't seen it before. So this is going to be an interesting game to see what they look like without the best receiver in the game, in my opinion. Kirk Cousins is going to have to get the ball out really quick. Not that it's going to be a struggle because Bears have no pass rush, but he's going to be going against hopefully a rejuvenated secondary. But on the other side of the ball, Bears offense, they're looking to keep the momentum building after last week against the Commanders and the week prior against the Broncos. And in my opinion, I think the Vikings defense is a little bit worse than the Commanders. So Fields and the Bears will definitely have that chance to continue that momentum.
Yep. Bears offense is getting hot. They've been good the past couple games, and they play against a pretty mid defense this week in the Vikings. The Bears defense played really great, like we said last week, against the Commanders. And they're going to have to continue to play like that to string together wins. You're not going to get a pass rush. That is what it is. So you're going to have your secondary and your linebackers who you spent all that money on to perform and go out there and get stops for you. The Jefferson going to the IR is going to hurt them pretty badly. I think it's really just going to be big Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, and Alexander Madison show really for the Vikings on offense. So we'll see how it is without Jefferson. Like you said, we haven't seen it yet. And this is a Vikings team that's currently sitting at 1-4 and now loses their best player for minimum 4 weeks. This could mean big trouble for the Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings reporters today asked Kirk Cousins if he would waive his no trade clause. I didn't hear what he said. I just heard they asked him that. So Vikings media is prepared to possibly go on a selling spree. You guys mentioned Justin Jefferson. Their offense has been pretty solid so far this year outside of the turnovers, but now they lose their biggest weapon. You didn't mention him, Josh, but I think TJ Hawkinson is going to get a lot of targets now.
Yes.
I think he's going to get a lot of targets now. And the Bears offense, we talked about it last week. They looked impressive. They're going up against maybe a worse defense, but I think Brian Flores is going to have a game plan for him. He's blitzed a lot this year. He's going to put pressure on Justin Fields to make plays. So look for that. And then Byron Murphy versus DJ Moore, possibly matchup. The Bears offense, I said it last week, I think DJ Moore had 81% of their total yards. So I expect the Vikings to probably try to game plan him out of the matchup as much as possible. It's going to be very interesting to see.
This is the game that the Bears are going to have to put those very expensive linebackers. I'm sure you probably wanted to touch on it, Josh. They're going to have to put those linebackers to good use because TJ Hawkinson, he's the Vikings' best offensive weapon now that Jefferson isn't in the game. And they're going to have to stop him and force Kirk to go outside and test those solid corners with the football. But on the other side, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Fields. I know a couple weeks ago I was out here just like, man, I'm 0 out of 100 on Fields. But I mean, I'll admit when I'm wrong. It was maybe a little early. He might be turning a corner. If we can keep stringing these games together, we might have something. But this defense, they do have one really good player, Daniil Hunter, and he is phenomenal. He could be someone that they end up selling near the deadline or even far before if they find themselves at 1-6, 1-7. But we aren't too sure because we're not there yet. But he's definitely going to be him and Darnell Wright are going to be a really key matchup on that right side if Fields wants to stay protected. So if I'm Luke Getsy, I'm sending a chip at him with Komet or Donta Foreman, actually, who's probably not going to be a healthy scratch for the first time since week 1 because the Bears lost Khalil Herbert and maybe even Roshan Johnson after a tough hit last week on Thursday Night Football. So hopefully Fields can keep it going. I'm really hoping that he does. And honestly, I got Chicago. I think they're riding really hot right now, especially offensively, and they're getting a couple key secondary players back. So I think they get enough defensive pressure in terms of takeaways and maybe even a sack or two. Who knows? But I got Chicago in this one.
Yeah, I'm worried about a Vikings O-line that has played very well so far this year, especially their tackles, and a lack of a Bears pass rush. The Vikings pass rush has been pretty good. The Bears O-line is not good. But with that being said, I'm going with the Bears. I just feel like at home, coming off of 2 straight good offensive games, playing against a Vikings defense that does tend to give up a lot of yards at times. I think this could be a big momentum game for the Bears. And just not having Jefferson, I think it's going to be an adjustment period for Kirk Cousins. And I think that could be to the Bears' advantage. If Jefferson was playing and this was the regular Vikings team, I would have probably took Minnesota. If this game was in Minnesota, I would have taken Minnesota. But because it's in Chicago, I think the Bears get the home win. I'm going with the Bears.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Bears, but I think the key to this game for them, is that they have to get started early, and they have to just come out hot and not get behind early. Because if they do, I think the fans will get against them, and that's big.
There was a part of me that just picked the Bears because I thought you guys were going to go with the Vikings, and I'm like, let me.
I mean, last time you both picked the Bears, they ended up losing to Tampa Bay, so I am a lot more nervous this time around.
That is true. If they keep losing whenever I pick them, I'm just going to pick them every week.
I mean, I did say, what's it called? I think it was prior to Thursday Night Football. I said that, hey, I cannot pick them until they prove that they can actually win a game. And then they went out and won that way. And then they get, honestly, a blessing with Jefferson not being not being active. So this is the game to get some momentum going, especially with the Raiders next week. I mean, we'll get to that in a week, but Bears could turn something around here.
Yep. That's all I got to say about that game, though, if you guys are ready to move on. All right, moving on to Seahawks at Bengals. Seahawks are coming off a bye. Pete Carroll is 7-7 coming off a bye in his time in Seattle. He has lost 3 games in a row, though, off the bye. So we'll see if that trend continues. This is a pretty tough Seahawks team. I think this is going to be a good challenge for the Bengals, who are looking to build off that win last week, which really was make or break for their season. They got that win. They're looking to build off that. So it's going to be a true test of whether the Bengals righted the ship or not. And the Seahawks are a legit solid team. So we'll see.
Honestly, this is going to be another really underrated game. Seahawks, they're nice and rested after this early week 4 bye. And then you got Cincinnati, who's played their best game of the season and won a really good game convincingly. And it was because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That duo, they showed that they are more than capable of doing that. Hopefully, Joe Burrow is getting healthier and healthier by the week. I think that still has had a larger impact than they may be letting on to the media with his play. But the key matchup for me is going to be the Seahawks O-line holding up against that very underrated Bengals front. If Seattle can score points, they may be able to force Joe Burrow into some uncomfortable spots with hobbling around. But it's going to be a really good game for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good game. Seattle coming off the bye. Geno Smith was a little banged up after that Monday night game. They get a chance to get him healthy. One key matchup I'd like to watch is that Seahawks young corners versus Jamar Chase, and I expect T. Higgins to play if he almost played last week. That's going to be a cool matchup to see how those young corners really match up against the elite receivers. And I've said this multiple times. I said it last week. It was a must-win game, but this is, again, another must-win game for the Bengals. They dug themselves a hole, and if you look at their schedule, next week they have the 49ers, then they go on a bye, and then they have the Bills. So rough schedule coming up for the Bengals. They need this one. They were able to get Jamar Chase involved in the offense last week, 3 touchdowns with 19 targets. They got to keep him in the game and going and try to mix in T. Higgins and keep getting Joe Burrow to throw the ball downfield. And he looked healthier last week, so the Bengals need to keep that going.
Yep. Like you said, Geno Smith was a little banged up last week. He gets a full week to recover now. For me, it's pretty simple. I think the Seahawks are a team with not a lot of question marks, and I think the Bengals are a team with a lot of question marks right now. I think the stability of the Seahawks helps them out here. I think they go into Cincinnati and get a win, and then I think we have to, depending on how this game goes, if the Bengals lose this game convincingly, we have to start looking at, your big wins are a close game to the Rams and a blowout in Arizona. But we'll see. I got the Seattle Seahawks.
This was one of those games where you could really flip a coin and argue both sides of it. I went with Cincinnati. I think they're going to be carrying that momentum from last week pretty nicely. I think Burrow's going to find Jamar Chase early and often, and I think they're going to put up a lot of points that Seattle won't be able to match.
Yeah, I have Cincinnati. I think we saw last week they were able to get Jamar Chase going. I think this is a game they could keep this offense going, add T. Higgins in. They have to win this game. I think they know that with the tough schedule they have coming up. It's a home game. Just don't bet against Joe Burrow. He's been hurt. He's looked rough so far this year, but I believe in Joe Burrow. I think their Bengals are going to find a way to win this game.
All right. Moving on then to 49ers at Browns. I heard the news was PJ Walker will start if Deshaun Watson doesn't go, which is interesting. DTR short-lived in that stint. But the Browns are coming off a bye. Watson's got the shoulder injury. I would say that the Browns defense would give San Francisco trouble, but they played a great defense last week in Dallas and they dominated. So that might have been the circumstances of the game and whatnot, but they have to do the same this week against the Browns defense. Looking at the 49ers schedule, I was just kind of peeking ahead after this game. I think they will probably sit at 10-0 going into Seattle week 12. And then they play Seattle. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think it's Seattle, Philly, Seattle. So that's going to be a tough stretch there. But before that stretch, it looks like they're going to go 10-0 in my eyes, unless something goes horribly wrong between now and then. But this Niners team is just so scary, and they could have the number 1 seed locked up early.
I mean, this game could go a lot of different ways because, like you said, Josh, if PJ Walker ends up starting because Deshaun Watson couldn't get healthy in that bye week, then maybe we see an interesting game because Deshaun Watson, we all know what he's fully capable of off script and those big time throws that he made back in Houston. But San Francisco, they have the best roster in the league. It's going to be hard to keep up scoring with them when Purdy's playing at an MVP level. And Mike, I know you brought up a couple days ago that is he really elite? I know where you stand on that, but I I'm not ready to turn that page just yet. If he produces at that level that he's been all year against, like last week against a really good Cowboys defense, and now this week against a very talented Cleveland Browns defense, maybe I might be ready to throw him in that conversation. But if Deshaun Watson's not ready to go, this game could really get ugly really fast. But if he is, who knows where it's going to end up.
Yeah, I saw a tweet yesterday saying that Brock Purdy is now over 547 in hypothetical situations, and Twitter just loves to make it, oh, if he was on this team, he'd suck. That all of that is irrelevant. He's on the 49ers. He's now 10-0 as a starting quarterback. You can't really argue with 10-0.
Talk to him.
He's playing at an elite level. So we know how I feel about Brock Purdy. And on BetMGM, I think the odds right now are 49ers are 7-point favorites. Yesterday, I think they were 5. I'm not going to say my bets already, but I think you can guess what my bet is for this one. The 49ers, they just don't have a weakness right now. They dominated the Cowboys defense, which is going into that game was looked at as one of the best defense in the NFL. Their defense dominated the Cowboys offense. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't run the ball. They've looked just great so far early in the season. And the only way the Browns can win this game is if their defense is able to stop Brock Purdy and find a way to throw him off, which we've really yet to see so far in his NFL career. So a lot of pressure on Jim Schwartz to put pressure on him.
Yeah, I mean, I like this Browns team. I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I like this defense a lot. And I like Deshaun Watson in times. There's times when he looks like he flashes of his old self, and then times where he just looks like an idiot, like that one first quarter play a couple weeks ago where he just lateraled it to nobody. But yeah, with that being said, it's hard to. I mean, are we ever going to pick against the Niners? I mean, I know we haven't now, but I'm going to go with San Francisco until they prove me wrong, and I don't think they're going to.
Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm going San Francisco until they prove me wrong. They're just such a good team. It's such a difficult decision to pick against them in any circumstance, like especially against the Cowboys last week. That would be the one circumstance where you could be like, all right, maybe the other team has a chance to win. But after seeing them dominate that good of a team, yeah, there's no way you can pick against San Francisco, in my opinion.
Yep, I got San Francisco. I feel bad for whoever it is, PJ Walker or DTR, if either of them are starting. The Browns really need Deshaun Watson to play this game. I think his shoulder injury is like self-diagnosed, so they need him to just stop being Deshaun Watson and just go out there and play football, man.
But they don't want him anywhere near the doctors.
That could be. I don't know. I just saw that it was self-diagnosed. So
that's interesting. But moving on, Saints at Texans. I'm not a big fan of Derek Carr, and I've been pretty vocal about that. Although he's had a couple good games, he's looked pretty poor in some of them. And the Texans defense has been playing really well the past few weeks. Ever since they started getting their sack and wins together, their defense has really been gelling. Like we've said a million times on here, they're well coached with D'Amico Ryans. The Saints defense played really good last week, but the Patriots have scored 3 points in 2 games. So maybe it's the Patriots, who knows? But Saints defense played good. They have been playing pretty solid. Stroud has been playing phenomenal. And I just think it's really important for any young quarterback to stack these wins early like he's been doing. Have they been one of the best teams in the league? Absolutely not. But not starting your career like, oh, and whatever it's big. It's good to see wins. Justin Fields, he didn't see a lot of wins early. It's you want to see you want your young quarterback to know what it feels like to win. Because if you don't know what it feels like to win, it's hard to know what you have to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree with you. It's really good that CJ Stroud he's learning how to win, and it's with a roster that honestly isn't at that competitive standard. But because of really good coaching, the defense is playing really well. The offense is playing really well. So it is what it is. Saints, their offense has been underwhelming. You make the big, I think it was signing for Derek Carr and extension. You got all those weapons, and now you got Kamara back, and they're sitting at 3-2. I mean, it feels weird to say it's underwhelming, even though they're at 3-2. But I feel like I need to see more from Derek Carr. I expected a little bit more from him. Maybe I was just being a little too optimistic, but this is definitely a chance for him to get something going against a Texans defense that's playing well, but personnel wise, they do not match what the Saints have to offer on offense. This will be a really good game. If this was in New Orleans, I think this goes one way, but since it's in Houston, I think this could really go both ways.
Yeah, the Saints defense has been very good so far this year. They were able to shut down the Patriots, which the Patriots offense does look terrible. But this could be the best defense that CJ Stroud has gone against. He's still yet to throw an interception. He is trying to break Kyler Murray's record now for just the most pass attempts without an interception as a rookie overall. I think he needs about like 24 more, but he's looked great so far this year. D'Amico Ryans has done a great coaching job. This Texas team is playing great, and a win over the Saints here would be huge for them. Could be like a culture-defining win. I know it's the Saints, but it could be a big win. Derek Carr has to be able to get the ball to his playmakers, Olave, Thomas, and Kamara. They were able to do that last week, and they won the game. They need Olave to be healthy. I think he got hurt a little bit in pregame. He should be able to go, but I could see this game going both ways.
Yep, I could too. I think if you're the Saints, the way you win this game is turning over CJ Stroud, which has not been easy so far. But with that being said, I'm going with the Texans. I like the Texans. I think CJ Stroud gets a big win.
Yeah, I got the Texans as well. CJ Stroud, he's just gonna have to prove to me that he's a turnover prone quarterback, which he's not. He's been very smart with the football. He's been very what's the word I'm looking for? Very prominent, I think, in the pocket, making his presence known and not giving in to the pressure that comes in from either side of him. I think he kind of makes the Saints defense look a little bit on the weaker side. He kind of eliminates Cam Jordan and that pass rush that can get in kind of quickly at times. And I got Houston as well.
I actually have the Saints. I think that Derek Carr, he's looked better these last week than he did the week before. This Texans defense has been all right, but the Saints have a lot of weapons. It is in Texas, which does concern me a little bit, but I think Derek Carr is going to be able to get the ball to Kamara. I think CJ Stroud, I don't think he'll have a turnover this game, but I think he will not look as good as he has. I got the Saints in a close one.
All right, moving on to Colts at Jags. Gardner Minshew has been playing very well in his time that he's had to come in for AR's injury, as we know that AR is going to miss many weeks with his injury. It will be Gardner Minshew. And like I said, he's been playing very well, but so has the Jags defense, surprisingly. Colts defense has also been playing very well. And the Jags offense has been pretty inconsistent so far. They've shown flashes, but have yet to put together a full game where they look good. And the Colts defense should give them trouble this week. The Colts are going to have to get to Trevor Lawrence early to stay in this game. As we know, the Colts struggle in Jacksonville, have lost 8 straight games there. But anything could happen. Streaks are meant to be broken.
Jacksonville,
not Ritter's though. Not Ritter's though.
That is the only one that is completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville, they are coming back from London, so that's certainly going to be something to keep an eye on. In Indy, like you said, Josh, they are without Anthony Richardson for 4 to 8 weeks, I believe I saw, and that's just so unfortunate. Rookie quarterback who's been showing so much promise and just so many great traits. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But he's been really good this year, running and throwing the ball. So it really sucks to be missing him. But unfortunately, we can't linger too much on that because he's going to be out for a while. Gardner Minshew, revenge game with Jacksonville, or at least a planned revenge game, because he came in relief for, unfortunately, Anthony Richardson in week 1, I believe, in the fourth quarter. Indy's going to have to get a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence, like you said, Josh. And if they can do that, they can force some timely takeaways and kind of keep Jacksonville from getting some momentum going early.
Yeah, I was trying to find the tweet, but when teams come back from London, I guess the NFL gave them a choice on they could pick the team that they could play or they could choose a bye week. And so Jacksonville chose to play the Colts at home. So that report came out before the game. I know how the Colts locker room works. That's going to have them going. Anthony Richardson, he went on IR, so he'll be out for 4 to 8 weeks, hopefully. If his shoulder isn't still looking good, he'll probably need surgery on it, which would be really rough for his development. They expect Jonathan Taylor to be the RB1 this week to get most of the first team reps. He will still split a lot with Zach Moss, who's looked tremendous so far this year, but that'll be big. They'll get Bernard Ryman back, pending no setbacks in his concussion protocol. So the Colts offensive line will be fully healthy, and their offensive line has looked great so far this year. It was one of our keys for their season, was for that offensive line to go back to what they were in like 2020 and 2021. So this running game has looked very good. And ever since week 1, really, when Deion Jackson was the RB1 and Zach Moss was out. And in week 1, the Colts played the Jags at home. They could not get any run game going. They looked very bad running the ball. And ever since then, they have looked incredible. They're one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL in the last 4 weeks. I expect that to continue. I think they're going to run the ball down Jacksonville's throat. This is a place that they know they don't play well. They haven't won there in a couple of years, but it's a new era. Shane Steichen, he's had this team looking incredible. I think this game is going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Colts overall. I really like how their young defense has played. We know their front seven is great, but I love how their young secondary has played and stepped up. I just, if Anthony Richardson was in this game, I think I would have an easier time picking the Colts. Without him, although I love Gardner Minshew, and it is a Minshew revenge game, like we said, I just think Jacksonville's going to be too much for him, and I think they extend it to 9.
Yeah, I got Jacksonville as well. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to just outscore that Colts offense. He really found a nice rhythm with Calvin Ridley over the pond last weekend. I think that will carry over back to the States. I think they put up 30 plus, and Gardner Minshew, he's been very solid, but unfortunately, I don't think it will be enough. I got Jacksonville.
Yeah, Ridley finally had a great week last week. ETN had a great week last week, but they're flying home. ETN said in that first week in London that first game in London, he felt jet lagged. The Jags team might feel a little jet lagged this week. If that report is real, I think the Colts are going to use it. They're going to go out playing like fire. The defense has looked great. Zaire Franklin has looked great, especially. Shaquille Leonard might be back. I was going to pick the Jags, but there's been so much. I just think it's a new Shane Steichen era. I think the Colts are going to run the ball. Jonathan Taylor. I got the Colts winning this game. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to Panthers at Dolphins. The Panthers have been playing really bad, and they're running into a team that's great at home in the Dolphins and just great in general. At this point, if you're a Panthers fan, I think you just want to see positive things from Bryce Young. You know you're not going to be able to win games. You got to root for, at least I'll say this for the Panthers. Most times in this situation, maybe you want your team to lose because you're 0-5 and you're like, let's just get the number 1 pick. But when you don't have your first overall pick or your first round pick, you don't have to worry about that. You can just straight up root for your team and not feel any guilt. As a Lions fan, I know what it feels like to be like, oh, we won, but at the same time, we're screwing ourselves for the future. They don't have to worry about that, at least. They can just sit there and root for their young quarterback that they just drafted 1-1. So if they end up having that pick, they can just look back at that. But I just don't think the Panthers really have enough firepower right now, and maybe the Dolphins have the most firepower in the league.
I mean, for me, this game, I don't have much to say about it except for, man, how about them Bears just fleecing the Panthers, getting that first overall pick back-to-back years?
Calling it early?
I think I am.
There's some one-loss teams.
I mean, the Panthers, like, if you look at their schedule, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I don't see them having a chance to get a win until, I think, week 10 against the Bears. And the Bears have looked really good, at least of late. So there's still a lot of time in between now and then, but they're really just outmatched.
Talk about must-wins. That's a must-win for the Panthers.
It's a must-win for both sides, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's beneficial for the Bears either way. But Dolphins are just better than the Panthers in every single part of the game. I don't have much else to say about this one. Miami, they're just going to mop the floor with them unless we see some out-of-body experience from Bryce Young, but I don't see that happening given the weapons he has around him.
Yeah, Devon Achane went on IR with a knee injury, so he'll be gone for the next 4 weeks. They do get Jeff Wilson back from IR this week, so you take one, but you give one away. The Panthers defense, who will they have that can guard one of Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle? I think the answer is nobody. So I don't really see this game being that close. The Panthers O-line, they just have to give Bryce Young some time to at least read the defense, get something going. I kind of expect this game to go how the Lions-Panthers game went, where the Dolphins get ahead early and maybe Bryce Young just gets some time late game to get in a rhythm, start feeling better in the NFL with the defense. But I don't see this game being very close. I got the Dolphins, I guess.
Yep, I got the Fins as well. I think Jeff Wilson scores a touchdown in in the game in his first game back.
Yeah, I got Miami. Nothing else to say. Who do we think is going to be the big player for Miami? I'm hoping it's Jalen Waddle. He's been not underwhelming this year, but he hasn't had like that big statement game yet. So I hope he really goes nuts this week.
Who's their starting tight end? I'm blanking.
Oh, Chase Claypool.
At this point.
Yeah, Claypool. Claypool's the breakout player.
Yeah, Chase Claypool is my breakout player for this week.
You're going for 150 and 2 touchdowns from the tight end spot.
Claypool and Robbie Chosen.
When the Dolphins traded for Claypool, LeBron James said they added more speed. I couldn't agree more. Claypool was always a great receiver. I'm kidding, but yeah, I got nothing else about this game. All right, cool. Next game here, Pats at Raiders. Jimmy G revenge game. So it's big for him. We got a couple of revenge games this week. Last year, this was the game with the wild finish. Chandler Jones, Mac Jones, everybody. This was in Las Vegas as well. So maybe this game will live up to that game's potential, but I highly doubt that. We'll see. The Pats are playing the worst football in the league right now. Probably they've been outscored 72-3, like we said, the past 2 weeks. But you can never count out a Bill Belichick coach team.
Honestly, you can say you can never count on a Bill Belichick coach team, but this entire Patriots organization right now, it feels they're just deflated. And the Raiders, they don't have to travel at all. They're coming off a Monday Night Football win against the Packers, a really close game, an entertaining one, at least from my perspective. But Patriots, it seems like they have no fire when they play. Their combo of Mac Jones for the first 2.5 quarters and Bailey Zappi for the rest of the game, it hasn't seemed to work out. So maybe if they try it again this week, it could. But this Patriots team, it just has no fire, in my opinion.
Yep, we get another Josh McDaniels versus Bill Belichick game. Josh McDaniels is 2-0 so far in matchups against Bill Belichick. So very interesting there. Last season, we had the crazy ending. I think you said it, Josh. And Mac Jones so far has looked very bad these last couple of weeks. Just borderline unplayable. The Patriots offense is averaging 11 points through 5 weeks, 11 points per game through 5 weeks, which is on pace to be the worst in NFL history. And it's not looking good if you're a Patriots fan. You've been in this era of having one of the best dynasties of all time. And now you're watching one of the worst offenses of all time. So it'd suck to be a Patriots fan right now, I guess. But Belichick is not going to want to lose to his former student. He's going to throw everything he's got at him. He does not want to go 0-3 against him. But I don't know if he really has the facilities to really do all that. They're still clearly missing Judon and Christian Gonzalez, who are both on IR. And the Raiders, they haven't been great, but they've been all right. Jimmy G's starting to develop some connections with the receivers. Jacoby Myers, we haven't seen him a lot with Devontae Adams, but I expect that to ramp up throughout the season. I just don't think the Patriots have enough to really win this game.
Yeah, the Raiders did not play super well last week, but they still ended up getting the win against Green Bay. Like I said, they were able to turn Jordan Love over. And Mac Jones is turning the ball over a lot right now. So I think that's going to play right into the Raiders' hands. So I think their defense will probably have a good game. I expect the Patriots to struggle to score again on the road, and I'm going to go with the Raiders.
I also got the Raiders in this one. I got nothing else to say. I think the 2 best highlights from this game are going to be the replay of the Chandler Jones stiff arm touchdown from last year, and then maybe a sick Devontae Adams route up on whoever the Patriots are starting in corner. I think it's J.C. Jackson now, which is kind of funny. But I got the Raiders in this one.
Yep, I got the Raiders as well. Mac Jones hasn't shown me anything to make me, and the Patriots offense hasn't shown me anything to really pick them. They need to get out of the slump as soon as possible. The season's going downhill for them quick. Doesn't look like they're going to win the Super Bowl, so I got the Raiders.
All right, moving on. Cardinals at Rams. This is two teams that are playing well despite not having high expectations going into the season. I hate to say that the Cardinals are playing well at 1-4, but they really are for their expectations. Cardinals defense was playing really well until last week when the Bengals finally got their get right game and Jamar Chase had 1,000,000 yards and 1,000,000 touchdowns. So I still think the defense has potential. They're still scrappy with Gannon. And the Rams offense looked phenomenal last week. The Rams offense with Cooper Kupp in it, and now they have Puka Nacua. Just looks like it, and Kyron Williams were at the running back with Stafford, my boy, at the helm. I think they're gonna continue to look flashy, and this is just gonna be a battle of which bad team is better.
Yeah, you really could not have said it better. They're both not great teams, and it's a division game, so who knows what's going to happen. But the Rams, I think they definitely have the edge, especially with their weapons. They got Cup, Puka, and even Tutu, who can even do a little something off of end arounds and stuff. But I do remember seeing this week that the Rams traded away Van Jefferson to who did they trade him to?
Atlanta.
It was Atlanta, right? And it was like him and a seventh for a sixth. It was that a common package.
Yeah.
But with this game being at LA, I don't really have much else to say. I think the Rams are just going to score more points. And I think both teams are very well coached. You got McVay and Gannon, who are both going to be there's going to be some good coaching out there. But I think the Rams are just going to be a little too much for the Cardinals in this one.
The Rams offense played great in the first half against the Eagles last week, and then they really struggled in the second half. I think we're going to see more of what happened in the first half. The Kua and Cup, they looked great in the first half last week, and I expect that to continue with this Cardinals defense, which has been well coached so far, but they really don't have the pieces to dominate an offense like this. I think this could be a big game from Stafford and those receivers and Kyron Williams. Both of these teams, like you said, Josh, they feel better than their records. The Cardinals 1-4, Rams 2-3. I could easily see the Cardinals at 2-3 and the Rams at 3-2, but I think this could be a good game. I think it will be a good game.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I really love the Rams offense. Their defense, they obviously have Aaron Donald. If their defense can pull together some stops, just this season in general, if they could put together some stops, I think they could definitely win some games. And I think they get up to 3-3 this week.
Yeah, I have the Rams as well. I think they're just going to, as dumb as it sounds, I think they're going to outscore them. And I think Aaron Donald's going to have quite a few big plays this game. Arizona's interior O-line is not the greatest. So I got the Rams in this one.
I got the Rams as well. I think this might be a high scoring game. I just don't think the Cardinals can really keep up with the Rams offense. And they have to game plan against Aaron Donald. So I got the Rams winning this one.
Moving on, next game here, Lions at Buccaneers. The Lions have been dominating the run on the offensive end and the defensive end so far this season. They've been the best team at doing both. So that is exactly how the Lions want to play. They want to play Detroit football. They want to rough you up. They want to, as Dan Campbell used to say, drag you down to the deep and hold you down there. And that's what they've been doing so far this season. The Bucs, on the other hand, are dead last in run block percentage and run stop percentage so far. So I think this is a very similar situation as to when the Lions played the Packers, a team that couldn't run the ball and couldn't stop the run. And we saw what happened in that Thursday night game on the road. The Bucs are a sneaky, solid team, though. The Lions, I just fear, are a buzzsaw right now. I think it's going to be really hard to knock this Lions team off. The way you beat this Lions team is you have to out-physical them. And I'm not sure there's many teams in the league outside of maybe the Niners and the Eagles that are going to out-physical the Lions. And the Bucs are not one of those teams. I think the Lions are just going to control the game on the ground. I think they're going to dominate time of possession. I could see this game being the first, I guess not the first 4:00 game to finish because they're 4:25, but maybe the first 4:25.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting game to look at on paper. But for me, Tampa Bay, they're sitting at 3-1 and the Lions are at 4-1. I mean, you would think this is going to be a good game, right? I don't think so. I think the Lions are just going to dominate the Bucs, like you said, Josh. They're just going to bully them up and down the field. And I was looking at an injury report that said Mike Evans didn't even practice today on Wednesday. So if they're missing him and they got to rely on Chris Godwin, then it's going to be a tough go for Baker, especially facing a really solid pass rush with Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson, who's been we've talked about him a bunch this year. He's been phenomenal. especially with generating not just pressures, but now sacks as of recent weeks. But Tampa, they're going to have to get the ball out quick. And if they don't have Mike Evans, it's going to be really tough to do that.
Yeah, we talked on the offseason about how we didn't think this Buccaneers team was that good. Their roster didn't look that good, but they've shown us and almost everybody wrong. Baker Mayfield, he didn't look great in training camp. There was videos where he's just missing wide open people, but he's came out and he's looked very solid this year. So has the Bucs team. Their defense has looked solid. Their only loss comes to the Eagles team, who is one of the two best teams in the NFL. The Bucs, they're trying to stay in the race with the NFC South. I think they're currently leading it right now. They've looked better than everyone's really projected them to look. The Lions, they are dominating the North right now. They look great. Their run game looks great. No Amon-Ra, no Gibbs last week, and they still were able to dominate on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think this game's going to be a blowout. I think it might be a little closer than you would think, but this Lions team has looked great through 2 weeks. Their offense has looked great since week 1. I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, you touched on Gibbs being out and Amon-Ra being out. Brian Branch has also been out. Amon-Ra was limited today in practice. Branch and Gibbs did not practice. It's leaning towards Amon-Ra playing, maybe Gibbs playing, and probably not for Branch, which sucks to see. I just cannot wait to see Branch get back out there. He was being one of the best defensive rookies in the league when he was out there. Speaking of the Lions secondary and injuries, I just want to touch on Emmanuel Mosley. We didn't have the full confirmation when we recorded the recap last week. He did, in fact, tear the other ACL last season. His season ended tearing his, I believe, right ACL. And then this season, first game back, tears his left ACL. So that's absolutely brutal for him. You hate to see that. I wish him a full recovery. Another Lions player, like CJ Gardner-Johnson on a 1-year deal, who has now had a season-ending injury in the first 5 weeks in the secondary. So that's brutal for the Lions, but I think they'll continue to bounce back. Like I said, Jerry Jacobs has not been playing amazing, but he leads the league in picks right now. So it's hard to argue that. The Lions are getting banged up, though. They're powering through. Would love to see Amon-Ra playing this week. I think we'll see J-Mo involved a lot more in the offense. The Lions pass rush, we know Baker is in his worst positions when he's under pressure. He has in his career just been a pretty piss-poor quarterback when he's being pressured. I think Hutch will be all over him. I want to touch on Aleem McNeil being the highest graded D tackle in the league since week 2. He had a really tough first 2 weeks. And then since then, he has been phenomenal in the run. He's had some sacks. He's been great. Him and Hutch always gets talked about for not having that other edge threat on the other side, and he really doesn't. But Aleem McNeil up the middle has just been fantastic and taking a lot of the pressure off Hutch. So you love to see that from a guy who you picked in the second round a couple of years ago that started off slow, now has been fantastic and huge for this Lions run defense. It's the number 1 in the league right now. Like I said, I think the Lions are going to just control this game on the ground. I think it's going to be a quick game. The Lions are going to do what they have to do, and I think they come out with the win. So in my eyes, they'll be 4-1 after this week, or sorry, 5-1 after this week. And you could argue with the way that Seahawks game went, a hold late, a bad pick 6 from Jared Goff. That was probably Jahmyr Gibbs' fault, but they are so close to being an undefeated team. And you love to see his Lions roll on in my eyes. I got Detroit.
I also got Detroit. I think they're just going to, like you said, Josh, out physical and just outperform this Tampa Bay team. I don't see this being too high of a scoring game. I think it's going to be like a 24-10 type of game, very quick, barring any egregious amounts of turnovers from Baker if he's under pressure and under duress a lot early. And especially if Amon-Ra's back, I do expect Jameson Williams to get a decent amount of work. Hopefully having another week back after that suspension will give him a little bit more comfort in the system. So I got Detroit.
I think the Lions offense is going to be hard for the Bucs to keep up with. I do think it'll be a closer game, but one factor that you guys both are overlooking is the fact that the Buccaneers are supposed to be wearing the creamsicle jerseys.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know.
that could
That's
give
why I gave them 10
points here or there. That could get, I don't know. I think that could raise them up to like 24, but
Lions used to be a team you take after going to London. Now they're the team you got to bust out the creamsicles for. The times have changed. The times have changed.
Yeah. I think it'll be a close game, but I got the Lions winning.
All right, moving on to Eagles at Jets. The Eagles secondary, if we're nitpicking their team, hasn't been fantastic this season despite being super talented. Their offense has also not been Eagles-esque, as you would say, but at the end of the day, we're nitpicking a 5-0 team here. The difference is when I look at the Niners and we talk about these Niners games, I have a hard time nitpicking them. I think with the Eagles, although they're both 5-0, I think there are problems you can see in the Eagles and weaknesses. I think this game maybe could be close for a little bit just because the Jets defense is so good. Like I said, the Eagles secondary has been playing phenomenal. So maybe if Zach Wilson gets something going early, maybe they stay in it. But overall, I'd lean Eagles here.
I don't know much to say about this one. I think the Philadelphia Eagles D line will just absolutely pummel the New York Jets O line, especially with them losing Elijah Vera Tucker for the season. As of I think a report on Monday or Tuesday, I think Carter Cox and Jordan Davis will have a field day within the interior O line, just getting a lot of pressure on Zach Wilson, trying to force him outside and force him off platform. And Zach Wilson, he's not the greatest when under pressure. Sure, he's got a little bit of wheels, but he's not the most accurate guy, and he's only got really Garrett Wilson to throw to against a secondary that's been inconsistent, like you said, Josh. But I don't have much else to say. I got the Eagles in this one.
Yeah, we talked about how Zach Wilson had a rough stretch of defenses that he's had to play, and now he has to go against the Eagles defense, and he loses one of his top offensive linemen. So that's going to be tough for him. The Eagles defense has struggled against the passing attack, surprisingly. That's been one of their weaknesses so far this year. One of their strengths, Jalen Carter, he's been incredible so far this year. He had 2 more sacks last week. And from what I saw, I think this was from last week, but he had only been playing, I think, 48% of snaps. So only playing 48% of snaps and being able to dominate the game is very impressive. The Eagles defense struggling against the pass. So I think this maybe Zach Wilson won't be as bad as people expect. He might be able to do kind of what he did against the Chiefs a little bit. But it's the Eagles and they're 5-0, so it's going to be hard to stay in the game. I think the Eagles are going to look good, and they just know how to win football games. I got the Eagles.
Yep. I'm just worried about I'm worried about the O-line issue, like we said, with the Jets and how good the Eagles D-line has been. Jalen Carter has just been fantastic. Why did we let him fall to the Eagles? Just a horrible decision, and a lot of teams are responsible for that. Both of our teams, well, all of our teams included, really. Colts were picking a quarterback either way, but regardless, can't believe that he got to go to the Eagles. Maybe if the Jets can pull off some quick passes and not let Zach Wilson sit in the pocket. If Zach Wilson has to sit in the pocket, it's going to be trouble early and it'll be over quick. But maybe, I don't know. I'm keeping the confidence in Zach Wilson, but that's all I got for that one.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I got the Eagles. I don't think Zach Wilson will look as bad, like I said, but I hope he figures it out and can continue playing well.
All right, me as well. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, Giants at Bills. Another game that I don't got much to say, but the Giants are a pretty embarrassing team overall, I would say. And the Bills need a bounce back from how it was in London last week playing Jacksonville. Lost the game they probably should have won, maybe only because of Jacksonville getting to be in London 2 weeks longer than them. And I'm sure Bills fans will probably use that excuse. But regardless, they lose a game to the Jags, who will probably win their division and make the playoffs. But now they're playing a team that's not making the playoffs under any circumstances. Despite injuries to the Bills defense, Milano, Trey White, we don't know if Taron Johnson's playing. I think he's going to play. But I think they're still going to dominate against a Giants team that can't block. Evan Neal can't really produce anything without Saquon Barkley. Maybe Daniel Jones plays, maybe he doesn't. I don't think it really matters, though.
Yeah, you're completely right. Whoever plays for the Giants, it really does not matter, at least with their current roster. This is one of those games where you really just hope, like, can you just start flexing the games out of Sunday Night Football a lot earlier in the year? This is just a really gross one that it's probably going to be more similar to the Week 1 matchup with the Giants and the Cowboys, where it's just going to be a lot of scoring from Buffalo, and the Giants aren't really going to be able to move the ball because they just don't have the weapons, and especially if Saquon's not playing, I don't see him doing much. Or Daniel Jones doing much. So I got Buffalo in a very easily decided contest.
Yeah, we get another Giants primetime game. Kind of reminds me of last year when we kept getting like Colts primetime games and Broncos primetime games. But
fucking Broncos.
Yeah.
They shoved the Broncos down our throat.
They did. They shoved them down our throat, especially early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, the Giants are going to have to play their best game of the season if they even want a chance to win this game. Saquon is, I think, most likely going to return. So That's their one bright spot, but Daniel Jones' neck injury is still bothering him. I think he might be questionable. The Giants offense ranks last in total yards and second to last in points per game, which the Patriots, I think, are last in points per game. So they're going up against the defense that's looked incredible. The Bills, they have a couple rough injuries, but other than that, they've been great. They struggled a little bit in London, but they also had to fly to London on Friday. So that's always tough. Dable maybe can know what to do against Josh Allen and this Bills offense being there. But we saw how the Bills responded to a loss after week 1 when they lost to the Jets and they dominated. So I don't think this is going to be a tough game for the Bills.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. They've been bouncing back and they've been dominating the teams they should dominate. I expect the same thing. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of Giants in prime time. This is the second time we've seen them in Sunday Night Football. The first time they lost 40-0. I wouldn't be shocked to see a similar result here. I got the Bills by a lot.
Yeah, not much else to say. Bills by a lot. It's going to be a gross one. Josh Allen's probably going to want some revenge after not playing the best over the pond. So I got Bills.
Yeah, the Bills are 14.5-point favorites. So Vegas obviously knows that this probably won't be a close game. And 14.5 may be generous with the way the Giants have played so far this year. I got the Bills winning this one.
They say to usually take in the NFL, college is different, but they say usually take anything above 14. But we'll see. I don't know if I can give myself the bet on the Giants in any circumstance. But moving on to the final game here, Monday Night Football, Cowboys at Chargers. The Cowboys really need a bounce back game after getting dominated by the Niners last week in a game everybody expected them to play great in. I think this crowd in LA will be very Cowboy heavy. The Chargers get Eckler back, which is huge for them, being able to run the ball. They haven't really been able to run the ball very well at all in his absence. They're coming off a bye. If I didn't have my personal gripes with the Chargers, I think I might pick the Chargers easily here. Kellen Moore as well now with the Chargers. So that's another storyline here. And I've kind of been going back and forth on this one, but like I said, I just have such a hard time picking the damn Chargers, man.
Like you said, Josh, this is definitely one that you can go back and forth on. Eckler coming back is going to be huge. Being able to help out Justin Herbert with an actual run game and instead of just running the ball between the tackles for 1 or 2 yards every single play, or even negative yards and putting him in second and longs. Getting rid of that is definitely going to help the Chargers team a lot. Unfortunately, they will be without Mike Williams as they have been for a little while, but they gave Eckler a chance to get healthy and had an entire week to game plan for this because of their bye last week. So for me, I don't have too much else to say about this one aside from the Cowboys are looking for revenge against really anybody in their path after getting just embarrassed in what should have been like the game of the week last week. Unfortunately, this looks like the game of the week this week, and we have to wait until Monday to get it. But hopefully, it should be a really good one. So it's going to be a close one too.
Yeah, you said it. Mike Williams torn ACL, done for the season. Austin Eckler said there's a 99% chance he's playing. It's a battle of two coaches who have struggled, I feel like, so far this year in Staley, McCarthy. Like you said, Josh, it's Kellen Moore versus his old team. There's a lot of little storylines in this game, but the Chargers defense, they're going to have to get to Dak early and keep him on this little turnover spree that he's been on recently. If you can force Dak into some bad interceptions, it's going to deflate the defense. We saw it against the 49ers. So that's going to be one of the keys for the Chargers, which they've struggled. Their defense has struggled all season. And on the other side, Dallas is going to have to get pressure on Herbert to make him feel uncomfortable. He's missing one of his top weapons, like I just said, Mike Williams. I think it's going to be a good game. Dallas just needs to be able to establish their run game. They weren't able to do it against the 49ers, who have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They just need to keep Dak calm and just cannot have those turnover sprees happen like they did against the 49ers.
Yeah, Mike Williams is out for the Chargers, of course, like we said, but also Cowboys on the other side don't have Diggs. So it's an eye for an eye in the cornerback receiving room in this game. Like you said, I think Cowboys absolutely have to establish their run game early and try to run all over this Chargers team. This is a Chargers defense that has not been great and probably should be. And it's a Cowboys offense that has not been great and probably should be. So something has to give in this game. And I can't believe I'm going to do it, but I'm picking the Chargers. I'm picking the Chargers.
I am with you. I also went Chargers. It just feels like I think I'm I don't remember exactly because of their bye last week. I think the last two games I picked correctly in favor of the Chargers. So I think I'm back in their good graces after the rough start to the year. So I'm going Chargers. I think Herbert will do just enough, and Keenan Allen will continue his really strong start to the season. And getting Eckler back is just another boost in the back pocket of that Kellen Moore offense. So I have the Chargers.
Yeah, I say it too much, but this does feel like a must-win almost for both teams. The Chargers, they got Kansas City next week, and you really don't want to go into that game being 2-3. But the Cowboys, they need this game to stay at pace with the Eagles, which they're already falling behind, obviously. This one, I just go both ways with it. I'm going to go with the Chargers, though. Last time we saw the Cowboys, they didn't look good. And I just think the Chargers, Justin Herbert, they get an extra week to prepare. Kellen Moore gets an extra week to prepare for the defense that he knows pretty well. Mike McCarthy's play calling has been iffy so far this year, so I'm going to go with the Chargers.
We clean sweep bet against every NFC East team except for the Eagles this week, I believe. Is that right, Zach? You got the chart in front of you?
That does look to be correct.
We all picked the Falcons. We all picked the
Chargers. We all went Falcons, Buffalo, and Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah. Clean sweep against the against the NFC East. But that will do it for our Week 6 preview. We're gonna finish this off with a couple betting picks here. I'm gonna let you guys go first. I got 6 sitting here. You guys can go pick them off. I'll take my remaining ones. So
all right, I'll go first, but before I hit off some betting, there are 2 buys this week, 2 teams on buy. I know I mentioned them earlier. We have Green Bay and Pittsburgh, so they will be back in action next week. So sorry to the Steelers and Packers fans for not getting a lot of attention this episode. But for my betting odds, I am taking the Vikings and Bears game to be over 44 points. I think it's criminal with how bad these 2 defenses are for the over-under to be that low. I think it exceeds 50 points easily. And I also have, I got to find it. Oh, no, it was just Bears money line. So I got those 2 because I picked the Bears. Might as well knock out a Bears money line in there.
Going deep into the Bears there, I see. But speaking on the 2 teams with the bye, the Packers get a chance to get Aaron Jones and their players healthy, and Matt Canada gets 2 weeks to try to make an NFL scheme. They do get Deontay Johnson back after the bye. He said he plans to play Week 7. But on to my 2 betting pick. My first one, I mentioned it earlier, 49ers -7. I just think this 49ers team is going to go in there and dominate. They've looked great all year, and they continue to look like the best team in the NFL. And then my second pick, I'm rolling with the Colts. Colts money line. I believe in the Colts. I want them to get it done. I think they're going to get it done. The getting to pick your team, that just gets me going, and I think that gets the Colts team going. So
the big factor.
The Colts, and I think the Colts are gonna make them regret that pick.
All right. Well, I said I was just gonna take my remaining ones here, but you guys picked none of the 6 I had, so now I gotta pick a favorite 2 here. First one I'm for sure going with Lions -3.5. I think that we're all just picking our own teams here, but Lions -3.5. I think that line is just a little bit too low. And you know what? I'll rattle off a couple more here. I like the Raiders -3 as well against Bill Belichick and the Pats at home. And I like the Eagles to cover once again at -7 against the Jets. It took me a second there, but yeah, -7 against the Jets. But
had them Daniel Jones eyes freaking out a little bit.
Yeah. I'm like, well, who the hell are they playing? But yes, that does it for episode 15, the Week 6 preview. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever we drop a new video. Follow all of our socials and the pod socials in the description, and we'll see everybody in the next one.